Happy birthday, Fannie Lou Hamer. Thank God for Fannie Lou Hamer. But you know what, thank God for Stockton College and Dr. soon-to-be President Harvey Kesselman and Dr. Patricia Reed Merritt, because they represent the excellence that Stockton has always sought to have. And they represent the diversity and excellence at the same time that we know is possible in New Jersey and in this country. I'm really excited about being here today, and I understand that Stockton College/University is one of the only schools in not just the state, but the country that actually pauses to recognize Fannie Lou Hamer on her birthday and the magnificent sacrifices everyday ordinary person used by God to do something extraordinary did and brought to our country.
Fannie Lou Hamer at a mass meeting, and from that mass meeting she went to register to vote. I was in the bus that took her to register to vote. Now you got to understand, Fannie Lou Hamer was unlike most people. She was a religious fundamentalist, she was a political pragmatist, she was a very gregarious person who loved people, but who didn't take anything from anyone.
Would have challenged us to do. When she challenged the Democratic Party in 1964, she simply wanted to have a seat at the table, even if it meant she had to bring in a folding chair. I want to have a seat at the table. I want to have a say in the government of my country. And she was beaten for that. She was jailed for that. She was marginalized for that. We shouldn't forget that this occurred just a few decades ago. We shouldn't forget that there was a struggle for civil rights in this country, a struggle for voting rights.
See, Fannie Lou Hamer did not care. She did not care. She refused to accept inequality. Now, it might be useful at this moment to step back and talk about the rules. See, Fannie Lou Hamer wanted us to have one set of rules, but she also exemplifies the kind of person who's going to go get it. We live in a go-along-to-get-along society. We live in a society of half measures. We don't want to call anybody out because it's too delicate to call folks out. Fannie Lou Hamer was not having that. She was sick and tired of being sick and tired of being the invisible black woman. I want you to be as sick and tired as Fannie Lou Hamer was about injustice. Because when you become that sick and that tired, you'll do something to make a difference.
So here we are, more polarized than ever. And civil rights has become a polarizing issue when once upon a time it was an American issue, and there was moral authority associated with standing up for civil rights.
Because Fannie Lou Hamer was an American revolutionary. Oh, yes, she was. She kept track of the vicious legacy of white supremacy and connected it with the vicious legacy of imperial arrogance, and also was always willing to be humble and to bear witness, not in the spirit of self-righteousness, but a spirit of resiliency.
And when I lay myself down to sleep, I know each and every single day I did my damn best to help our people. And I don't do it for the shine, and I don't do it for the vine. I'm certainly not a famous person. I ain't in jet, ebony, or essence. But I do it for Fannie. And I do it for Ella. I do it for my mom, who still works. I do it for my grandmother, graduated from school at 16. I do it for the women that came before me and the women and men after.
Fannie Lou, in my own memory, has always been so important. She was always the great hero from my mother of the civil rights movement. She always talked about how you hear always about Martin Luther King or Rosa Parks, but it was really Fannie Lou. You know, Fannie Lou who was on the ground, Fannie Lou who was a sharecropper herself, who was a child laborer picking between 200 and 300 bales of cotton as a child, and Fannie Lou who was beaten so badly by the police that she suffered permanent injuries. I think that I'm honored to be giving this talk and remembering Fannie Lou Hamer, and to really think about her in a moment that I'll be talking about today of Black Lives Matter, of Ferguson, of Baltimore, and of Charlotte, and to think back to that civil rights generation as really having experienced and mobilized in exactly the ways that we see young people today.
So I want to hold up some of those people and talk about what that tradition represented. But I also want to talk about what Dr. King referred to as the fierce urgency of now. That is, how does the legacy of the civil rights movement, especially the radical voices of the civil rights movement, relate to the political moment that we find ourselves in today?
I would respond to the question that the civil rights leaders today and for the future are those of you that I am in fact looking at. I take, for instance, in my new role as the Director of Faith and Constituency Outreach for the Democratic National Committee. 2 years ago, young people around this country registered to vote and voted for the first African-American president of the United States of America. What more fulfilling tribute to Fannie Lou Hamer but that young people, disproportionate, did in fact what she lost her life for, what she got laughed at about, what she got talked about, all because she wanted the opportunity to control her political destiny.
I want to say that the leadership taken by the Africana Studies program in this regard is perhaps the vanguard position of any Africana Studies program in the nation on Fannie Lou Hamer. I don't know any other program that has joined this effort any more intensely than you have at Stockton.
People who worked in organizations, whether it was the Panther Party, SNCC, whether it was any of the organizations, RAM, whether it was the Nation of Islam, those people felt that this was a way to change the objective conditions in America. People put their lives on the line because they felt that America could actually change, that their children could actually have a different place in this world. That's why people put themselves on the line. It wasn't like they made a decision, I'm going to do this. People were compelled, and one of the compulsions was that, for me, one of the compulsions was that I actually could do something to change 400 years of history. 400 years of history. So I tell people that, and I always ask them the same thing I will ask you: what would you do? What would you do if you thought you could turn this whole thing around?
Fannie Lou Hamer said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." And for us, we think about the ways in which the history, the legacy of racial oppression, the ways in which that legacy has affected each and every one of us, generations of us, be it the institution of enslavement, to Jim Crow, to lynching, to the civil rights struggle and the civil rights violation, to the resistance to the Civil Rights Act, to police brutality and state-sponsored violence. There have been people who have been fighting those instances for centuries. However, what people don't understand is that each of the people who proclaim to be activists have gone through their own struggles. And when we talk about the difference between a moment and a movement, we have to look at the moments that we all experience that create the movement in us. Each and every one of you are a part of this movement.
Throughout the 1960s and 70s, Hamer often reminded activists to never fall into the trap of imagining that their local struggle was somehow disconnected from the struggles of other marginalized peoples. Hamer resisted what she saw as any individual or collective effort to advance social progress for some rather than for all. Now, we've got to have some changes in this country, Hamer argued, And not only changes for the black man, and not only changes for the black woman, but the changes we have to have in this country are going to be for the liberation of all people. I am not just fighting for myself and for the black race, but I am fighting for the Indians, I'm fighting for the Mexicans, I'm fighting for the Chinese, I'm fighting for anybody, because as long as they are human beings, they need freedom. Hamer summarized her position in 5 powerful words that she often repeated: nobody's free until everybody's free.
I don't think there's even a white person under the sun could say they would be patient as long as we've been patient. This is just a lot of crap that folks talk about true democracy of this country, because ain't nobody had it. You hadn't had it because you can't have yours until I have mine.
We are sick and tired of being sick and tired. For so many years, Negroes have suffered in the state of Mississippi. And we are tired of people saying that we are satisfied, because we are everything but satisfied.
This country is sick. And the only way this country will survive is people working like you and like I'm working, that's really concerned about human beings of this country. Because other than that, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And the same thing goes with a nation. A nation divided against itself cannot stand. And it's going to take people like you that's concerned about this country that can make a great society. The salvation of this country will rest on your shoulders, all of your shoulders. That's young and determined to see that things will change not only in Mississippi but all around this country for human beings. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord.